Let's speak live to African football expert Solace Chukwu as we build up to the opening game. Good evening to you, Solace. Good to speak to you. Let's start with these concerns then. How much are they then? New COVID cases every day at the moment.
I think historically the AFCON has always been a very unpredictable tournament. So COVID is just a whole other complication thrown into the mix now. I think it's something that's really going to affect teams, especially in terms of figuring out starting 11 in the opening games and also later in the tournament as well. So that's a real spanner in the works for any pundits or journalists who like to make predictions. Really, it's all very up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, do you feel, are there any doubts at all about Cameroon's ability to host this tournament with with everything that's going on?
Well, yes. I mean, initially this tournament was they were supposed to host in 2019, of course, but there were concerns about their ability to, get all the infrastructure ready. And so, it was moved over to Egypt and they were handed 2021. But then 2021 came around, and then, with COVID and then with the weather in Cameroon, there's been a lot of, bottlenecks and roadblocks along the way. So a lot is riding on Cameroon being able to pull this off. Just a few days ago, there was a bomb in Bimbe, which is one of the host cities for the AFCON. And that's just kind of ramped up this sense of volatility around Cameroon at the moment. So there's a lot riding on it for Cameroon. There's also a lot riding on it for CAF, who really put their necks on the line to make sure that Cameroon get the right to host this tournament.
Yeah, and of course, we're really excited about it here. I mean, Sky Sports are showing it live as well. So we're looking forward to a great tournament, fingers crossed. But obviously, with the concerns about Egypt today, let's talk about brighter things then. They have won this competition a record 7 times. They faced Nigeria in their first game. That's in Group D. Do you think Mr. Mo Salah could be the star of this tournament at all?
When you look at Egypt, everybody tends to think that because of his huge profile. I mean, Salah is clearly one of the best players in the world at the moment. So there's always that expectation, but it's never quite panned out for him when playing for Egypt, because the system in Egypt is a lot different from what he has at Liverpool. It's a lot more defensive, and a lot rides on his ability to perform as an individual. So he doesn't quite have the support system around him to make it work. So I think it's one of the pitfalls of African football. We have a lot of time teams who have just one star individual and who hope that player can carry them through to glory. But then at the end of the day, they face opponents who know they can just target this star player and keep tabs on him, and every other thing will be taken care of from their perspective. So that's the challenge really for Egypt in this tournament. That's the challenge for Mo Salah. He has to overcome added pressure from playing for his national team, and also more attention from opposition players, as well as a system that might not necessarily fit his strengths. So it's a real puzzle for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm interested in you talk about star players, because we know of one here, of course, Wilf Zaha. The good news for him and for Ivory Coast is that he is out of isolation and he should line up in that game against Equatorial Guinea on Wednesday. How key will he be for them? Is he one of their stars?
Most definitely, yeah. Although you look at the riches that Ivory Coast have up front, and they have a number of important players who can fill in if he's not there. So it's not quite the Mo Salah situation with Egypt, but yeah, he's very important to Ivory Coast, and if he plays, obviously they have a better chance of clicking. There's also Arsenal player Nicola Pepe, who's on the other flank. You look at that on paper and you say these two on opposing flanks against any team would be impossible to contain, but these are 2 players who are quite mercurial, so getting them both firing at the same time is a bit of a challenge. If Ivory Coast can do that, they could make a really deep run at the Africa Cup of Nations this year, most definitely.
Solace, what about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang? He is likely, of course, to miss Gabon's opening game against Comoros after testing positive for COVID. Has there been any backlash out there? He was seen out with his teammates in Dubai. We spoke yesterday about this on Sky Sports News, and it wasn't the best thing he could do.
Yeah, it wasn't great really to be caught on camera doing it. But at the end of the day, my opinion, I think, is a lot of it was slightly overblown. I think, from what I saw, it looked like he was having a meal with his teammates, which I don't think there's much wrong with that. Even though, yes, he did fall foul of the protocols and everything, but I think Gabon have a lot of issues beyond just Aubameyang. There's also the fact that they threatened not to leave their Dubai camp if they weren't paid their allowances and bonuses, which is one of those things that you get at the AFCON regularly. It's just something that happens. There will always be some kind of drama around allowances and bonuses. So, and also they had, the whole scandal with this, sex scandal, child abuse thing going on in the ranks of Gabonese football. So there's a lot of issues there for them to overcome. Aubameyang it's just brought things to a head, and it's just like he's the final straw. So everyone is kind of unloading on him, but really it's less about him and more about the general sense of just dysfunction and chaos around Gabon at the moment.
Okay, it's an interesting story developing there then, clearly. Look, just finally, Solace, Algeria, they're on this incredible unbeaten run. Do you feel they're the team to beat then, and who do you feel will be their main contenders?
What Algeria is doing right now is unprecedented. I mean, 34 games without defeat is just an impossible run. And what's really scary about them is when they won in 2019, they had Jamel Belmadi as coach, who had just been in charge for a year. And he set himself that target to win the AFCON, and he did it. This time around, he's been much longer with the team. He's refreshed, the squad in terms of certain aging players and brought in more young talent. And if anything, Algeria are an even stronger and better side now than they were back in 2019. So it's difficult to look past them. Generally, there's this thing with African football where the relative quality of coaching is not as high. So generally, once you have a dominant team and they don't get in their own way, they tend to go quite far. So I think you'll see Algeria definitely there or thereabouts, come the latter stages of the competition. They'll have to wade through Senegal, who they beat in the final last time out. Also a quality team, but I think they don't have quite the same level of tactical expertise on the bench to tide them over, even though they have some brilliant players, not least of all Sadio Mane, as part of the team. So there's also Morocco, I think, who are a great side. They don't quite have the depth of the other two, but they have a really strong team and a very wily manager in Khalid. So yeah, I would say these are the three, big favorites for the AFCON this year, and I wouldn't look past any of them. Of course, like we said, there's a lot of variables with COVID, and you never know the kind of havoc that can play with the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Solace Chukwu, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.